Hi guys, my name is Heather and this is Cyania Labs. Today I'm going to show you how to take raw CSV data and turn it into beautiful charts in seconds. I'll break down how to access CSV files in Excel, show you how I analyze data fast to find deep insights, and finally visualize it in beautiful charts. CSV stands for comma-separated values. This is one of the most common ways to store data, so knowing how to work with them is a critical skill. The data that we're going to use today comes from the USDA website, and the USDA actually tracks the average cost of fruits and vegetables in the United States. And this is really just interesting data, and so I thought it would be a helpful place to gather a CSV file. And so if we go to Overview and scroll down, you can see these file downloads, and I can actually download this file as a CSV. And if I click that, you can see it's downloaded it. Once you've downloaded your data, it's going to show up in the Downloads section of your Files Manager, and I'm actually going to open this CSV file just to point out a couple of features of a CSV. So when you open a CSV, it's going to look a lot like an Excel file, but there's a couple of really important differences that you need to know. And the first one is that if you highlight a cell in CSV and you try to save it, it's actually not going to save. And so if I reopen that file real quick, you'll notice that it's as if that edit was never made. And that's because CSV files actually can't store any formatting information. And so if you do edit a CSV, you need to save it as an XLX file. You can check the type of file in this top section where the file name is. See, this says .csv. And so while this appears to be an Excel file, it's actually a different kind of data. And I think that's just a really important feature to know about a CSV file. And so to edit the CSV or to work with the data, we're actually going to import it into an Excel file. So I'm actually just going to make a new blank workbook. And from the Home tab, I'm going to go over to Data, Get Data, from File, from Text/CSV, or you can actually just click this button that says From Text/CSV. And in my downloads, I have that CSV file, so I'm just going to import it and click Load. I don't need to worry about any of that. What it's going to do is import this data in as a table. And so you can see there's a couple of different columns, and it has the vegetable, the form, retail price, and some unit information. And so when you first look at these tables, sometimes it can be really overwhelming. And so one way I like to analyze the data quickly is to go to the Home tab and click this Analyze Data button. And what Excel is going to do is it's actually going to automatically make a few different kinds of tables that help just kind of summarize the data quickly. And I don't like to use these tables. I think they don't look the best, or a lot of times they're not really the sort of information you're looking for, but they can be a really helpful starting point for seeing what sorts of breakdowns and charts you can use to analyze the data. So as I scroll through some of these, I like the idea of taking the different forms of vegetables I have and separating them by average retail price for each form. And so to do that, I'm going to go over to Table Design, and I want to copy this table name. And that's how I'm going to access the data in here when I make my first pivot table. So I'm going to go to a new sheet, Insert Pivot Table. And I'm going to copy the name of that table into this. You can also use a range of cells. I just find that using a table naming convention is a little bit more user-friendly than trying to figure out what cells you need. So I'm going to just put that table in and select OK. And this is what it looks like when you get your first empty pivot table. And so what I want to do here is just click, I wanted the form and the retail price. So what Excel does is it pulls all of the forms that are available. So if you were to go over here and find all of the unique forms, it would just be canned, dried, fresh, and frozen. And right now it's summing the retail price, and that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I actually want it to average. And so to change that, you can see I have a couple of different menus over here. There's filters, columns, rows, and values. And I want this to say average retail price. So if I click on it and go to Value Field Settings, I can click Average, OK. And so now what it's doing is it's actually averaging these values to get me a retail price that makes a little bit more sense. And I want this to make a pivot table chart, so I'm gonna click Pivot Chart up here. And yeah, that looks pretty good, so I'm going to click OK. And as you can see, it's pulling the average retail price for each form, and I like that. So let's go through and just do a few quick formatting things to make this chart look a little bit prettier and make more sense to somebody who doesn't really necessarily know what we're talking about in terms of what the data looks like. So I would like some access titles. I don't really need that legend. I'll click here to get rid of that. I don't need this bottom access title since these are already labeled, but I do want this to say average retail price. Awesome. And to get rid of these two buttons here, I can go to Pivot Chart Analyze and click this Field Buttons, and that'll get rid of those. And I want this to say average retail price by form. And for styling, I like to just click this button here, and if you scroll down, there's different kinds of styles that you can use. I like this one, so I'll just select that one. And I think this chart looks pretty good. We can easily tell what's going on. If I was to change anything else, maybe I would make this a currency value, so I can go to Chart Options, Vertical Value Axis, go over here to the Data button, click Number, and I'll just turn that into a currency. And now really this chart is readable to anyone, and they can easily see that the canned vegetables are cheaper on average than frozen vegetables, and really just get information about the data quickly. Now, I like that we've separated these by form, but one other thing I'd like to know is what kinds of vegetables are cheapest overall. So you can see like there's 3 types of asparagus here, fresh, frozen, and canned. And they all have different prices, but I really would like to know like what vegetable has the cheapest average price. And so to do that, I'm going to make another sheet, and just like we did before, I will insert a pivot table, and you can also just do a pivot chart if you want. It's going to just automatically put in the chart for you, which just kind of takes one step out of the process. And I want to use vegetable and retail price for this one. And again, it's going to make it the sum of retail price, so I'll just change that to average. And so now I'm pulling the average values. I really would like this to be vertical, so I'm going to go over to Insert, and up here I can actually change this to a horizontal bar and make this a little bit taller. And again, I don't really want those buttons there, so I'll click Pivot Chart Analyze, Field Buttons, and I don't need a legend, but I would like some access titles, just not this one. And this is going to be average retail price. And then I also would like again to make that these numbers at the bottom a currency value, so I'll go down to the horizontal value axis, the data button, number, and I'm going to go to currency. And if it does something like this, just go ahead and click add. Awesome. Again, I don't really want those pivot chart buttons. And I would actually like these values to go from smallest to largest on the chart. And so to do that, I can go over here to data and sort, and I want it largest to smallest. And as you can see, that's reorganized all of the data so that we can see what's the cheapest, and in this case it's cabbage, and the most expensive is olives. So that's some really insightful information we have. And just to title it, I can say average retail price by vegetable. Awesome, and then just to do some final stylizing, I'll go all the way down and make it look just like our other chart. And that's about it. So really what we've done here is we've broken down this complex CSV data in about 5 or 6 minutes and pulled together some information that's really could be valuable, put on a slideshow, talked about, whatever you need to do with it. So that's just kind of some basic pivot table stuff. There's a lot more that we can do with this in terms of stylizing our charts. We can categorize pivot tables more, so if you'd like to see some more, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.